Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Star Spangled Sit Down. I am Debbie Bissoon, and I'm taking over today from Bobby. Don't worry, he gave me his full permission for this very special edition in celebration of Black History Month and Reggae Month, which is still very much happening as we are still in February. Now, today, we're going to be talking about the impact of Jamaica's reggae music on Black American music. And if you're a music lover, and an entertainment lover, then you know that the relation is very much present and is there undeniably so. Now I had to bring in the stars. It is in fact the Star Spangled Sit Down, and I had to pull on a couple of our superstars in the music industry. They have been doing extremely well for many years. We're talking about 30 years together this year. Ladies and gentlemen, joining me on this set, the legendary duo, Alrick and Boyd. Gentlemen.
Hi, Debbie. How are you doing?
How are you doing? All right?
Hello, everybody.
Thanks for joining me. Let me tell you a little bit about Alrick and Boyd if you don't know. Alrick and Boyd, they're veteran DJs, producers, and radio broadcasters with over 30 years of experience in the entertainment industry in Jamaica, the US, Latin America, Canada, Greece, the UK. Am I leaving out anywhere?
Olip.
Okay. Let's just say worldwide, right? They have been credited with introducing the Jamaican audience to hip hop, and throughout their career helped to set the standard for how music is played and enjoyed here in Jamaica. If you do not know Alrick and Boyd, it means that you're very young. And we're going to fix things today, right? So Alrick and Boyd, they've hosted The Edge on Fame 95 FM for over 14 years. They were celebrity guest judges on Heineken Green Synergy and have produced and worked with some of the biggest names in reggae, dancehall, and hip hop. Gentlemen, again, it is such an honor to sit with you for today's talk. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here. Yes.
And another legend who is joining us virtually. Let me tell you about her. She is immaculate at putting words on paper, and we love her for always championing our Jamaican culture in the US. We're talking about the legendary Patricia, as we call her, Auntie Pat Meschino. Hi, Pat. She's joining us virtually. Hi, Pat.
Good morning. I'm
Let
great. So nice to be with you today. Thank you for having me.
We're very, very happy to have you, Pat. Pat is a New York City-based journalist who has specialized in writing about Caribbean music for over 30 years. She's a long-standing contributing writer to Billboard Magazine and Billboard.com, and regularly reports on reggae music. Her writing has been featured in Rolling Stones, The Daily Beast, and NPR Music. Now, Pat was the editor for Air Jamaica's award-winning In-Flight magazine, Sky Writings, for 12 years up until the airline ceased operations. She's also a former staff writer at BobMarley.com and was the recipient of the Golden Pen Award for Journalistic Achievements as part of the 2018 Reggae Sumfest Inspire Awards. And I hosted that event, and I was very happy to call her on stage to accept the award. So Pat, thanks for joining us today.
Again, it's such an honor to be with all of you this morning. Looking forward to it.
All right, so can I call it a team? Because it's like a team, right?
Yeah, it is a team.
It's a team.
I
right.
want to be a team. Yes.
It's a team.
Yeah.
No, you know, as we know, guys, Jamaica, we are known worldwide for our music, right? A little dot on the world's map, but undeniably so, our music, it has taken Jamaica globally, and our artists, the members of our music industry, they've done incredibly well in ensuring that Jamaica's name has been sung worldwide for our culture and our entertainment as well. So I'm going to pull in Alrick at this point, and we're going to start with the technical portion of it. The key elements of reggae music. What about reggae music that makes it so unique?
Well, there are many elements, but clearly what has stood out more than anything is what I would call the lyrical content of it, the spirituality of it, especially what has blown up across the world with Bob Marley and what he was able to put into the music and get that out there. And people generally, they are able to relate to that no matter where in the world they come from. Of course, you can also talk about the bass lines, that unique, deep rubber bass lines that really get work into your soul. that is another element of reggae music that is universal as well. When you talk about though, there may be other elements, and when you talk in the technical side of it, actually, Boyd is better at.
Yes, I was
speaking
going to
that.
pull him in here as
Really?
well. Yes. Boy, go ahead and tell us what you think.
Yes, it's the humanity of it for one. And the technical side is where it comes from. We have an indigenous music that was inspired by R&B, actually. And it's the way it's played. The instruments that they use is coming from our past mentor and other genres, you know.
Right.
So it's a fusion of many different facets to make this one music. And because the music is a genre among itself, it also spawned dancehall.
Yeah.
Dancehall is from reggae, nowhere else, right? The way how the beat is Jamaican. The way how the guitar is strummed is Jamaican, you know. Inspired by other places, but we have created our own thing. And because of that, it is very, very original, you know, and I think that is the main reason why it's crossing over or has crossed over for so many years and inspired other people to make the music. It's not just Bob Marley, yes.
Right.
Bob Marley is the face of it in the world, but you have so many different heroes and players that have become before him and after him that keep it going.
Yeah, for sure. And as you mentioned there, just, you know, the things that makes it authentically us, like that very strong bass line. We have to mention Robbie Shakespeare. I mean, he was laid to rest this month as well. Such a giant in creating that sound that you can't get away from. As you said, Alrick, like it really vibrates in your soul.
And he still learned from somebody too.
And he learned from somebody as well.
So it has been around for a while.
Yeah.
You know.
And we must also mention as well that you know, the lyrics of reggae has really been, you know, that kind of ingredient that crossed over genres, that crossed over, you know, waters into different territories, because from reggae music, the message, like, you know, Bob Marley has spoken about, one love, you know, those things will resonate across culture, across languages.
It's actually very to the point.
Yes, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
it's not beating around the bush at all.
It is not.
And the drum and bass application of reggae don't beat around the bush either.
Hence the militancy of it, that whole thing.
It was actually speaking about the reality of humanity, as you just said a while ago, Boyd, because from that people could hear themselves, they could see themselves.
Right.
It was really a medium for message. And so, you know, that I think is one of the great ingredients why reggae is so unique as well.
Right.
I'm very happy, Boy, that you mentioned something about the blues, and that it's from that, because the blues belonging to the US, you know, a lot of our artists were covering a lot of the American artists as well. You know, can we talk some more about that? Yeah.
We got inspired by them because they used to come here and perform. I think at Carib back in the day, and different cinemas were hosting a lot of R&B. Fats Domino
has come here and performed.
James Brown, you know, all of those big icons came here to perform, and because of that, they inspired our music culture. You know, our musicians were inspired when they heard that blues riff. You know, what the blues riff? Sorry, not riff. When they play the blues riff on the guitar, you know, we wanted our own inspired version of that. So the mentor came into ska.
Yeah.
You know, our ska, I would say, is our inspiration from rock and roll.
Yeah.
We were so enthralled in the rock and roll era that we created our own version of rock and roll. So down to the dress, we used to follow them, and we have the four player, the duo, the trio, whatever. We used to come
that to cut it, but it we even come to having our own dance.
Yes.
Right. So in the way rock and roll had the twist, we have the ska.
Yeah.
And it's somewhat similar. You swing your hand back and forth, and it's
the same thing.
Yeah, just the evolution of it, right?
It was inspired from it. So yes, so I mean, from that is where we started doing, not only from the mentor and the quadrille and stuff, but now we're having something more musical.
Yeah.
You know, because Mentor and Quadrille also is from Africa. So
Mhm.
now we're having more, because that blues riff influenced our soul as well. So it broadened our scope of how to create music in a different manner other than just the classical music that we were learning in school, or the band music or whatever. And even the bands used to play R&B music because we didn't have our music. So the bands either if not play Mentor, they're going to play R&B or rock and roll or whatever.
Right.
So that's where that's where the influences come from.
Yeah.
Can I say one more thing before
man,
that?
please.
I can say something. I'll say this. During that time, there was a gentleman by the name of Headley Jones, who used to use, Headley Jones was a genius because he created his own electric guitar before Gibson and before, you know.
Right.
I don't know if he got it patented or whatever, but he created that because he was such a genius. He also created in 1947, I would say, the first Jamaican sound system that had preamps and amplifiers and speakers and whatever, that whole section of speakers and preamplifiers, and because of the music, right? So he wanted to play his music a certain way because of what was there before, coming from the gramophone era up to now. He never want to hear that through a gramophone speaker. So he created his own way of splitting the frequencies, so you can hear bass, treble, mid-range, and whatever, and then put them out to the speakers. And after that, Headley Brown influenced the sound system culture. This is 1947, you know.
This is, you're taking us way back. I feel like I should probably be taking notes, like in history class.
The sound system culture.
He created the sound system culture.
Wow.
Because now he wanted the music to be played from miles. You can hear it from miles away. It's not just a component set that you can hear inside your house. He wanted to project his music so everybody could hear it. So in 1947, he did that. And then he did the sound system for Studio One. And that influenced how music was recorded in the studio, how it was sounded, how they hear it, and how they reproduced it, and how, you understand?
Yeah, he was a big part of the culture.
He was a big part of the culture. I mean, yes, we have given him accolades and stuff, but we don't talk about him enough.
And I'm very happy that you mentioned it. I'm very, very happy that you mentioned, because I think persons now who are watching, including myself, are really now just hearing about his contribution to the music industry. So thank you so much for bringing up that point.
Headley Jones.
Headley Jones, never forget it.
And you can research it.
And we will definitely research it. And let's talk about somebody who has been doing vast amounts of research over the years into our music, even though she's not from Jamaica. And I think we really have adopted her as our own. Pat, she's been covering reggae music for over 3 decades. Pat, I want to bring you in here because now we're moving from the earliest genres now into hip hop, which is still a genre that is existing right now and still very much alive and has crossed over, fused with Jamaican music. There has been some controversy, as you may know, about the similarities between hip hop and Jamaican music. But how do you think the two genres have helped each other to grow throughout history?
Well, the question is perfect to pick up on what Boyd just said about Headley Jones and the early sound systems, and that not getting Headley Jones and those innovations that he's responsible for not getting enough attention, even in Jamaica. So you can imagine in the US and beyond that the attention is lacking for all that he contributed. And all that he contributed is at the basis of the birth of hip hop. We all know that Kool Herc, a Jamaican born and raised in Kingston, came to the Bronx, New York, was influenced by the sound systems he heard back in Jamaica, took that out in the street, started with a basement party to raise money to go back to school for clothes. It was his sister Cindy who did that, and then eventually took it out in the streets. Had people, he tried it with reggae records that didn't quite connect with the Bronx crowd, but eventually he got into the funk records and soul and different things, and like the version side in Jamaican music, he would have them chat lyrics over the instrumental, and that is the birth of rap right there. So it's like, it's not, I don't think that's disputed anywhere, but what is controversial is how that is not given its due credit often enough, you know. And this being the 50th year of the birth of hip hop, I would love to see exhibitions in Jamaica, elsewhere, but just about some of these elements that are at the birth of this music, which has become the biggest music in the world. I mean, it was the most streamed genre for 2021 and 2020 and other years going forward. We see in all hip hop, NFL Super Bowl show a couple of weeks ago, you know, just so many milestones for this music. And yet Jamaican contributions are at the core of that. So I would love to see more attention paid to that in Jamaica, as well as in the US, you know, and really go in depth. Again, to Boyd's point about Headley Jones, like, who is this man? What did he put out in the world that allowed these components to come together for the first sound system in Jamaica, and then transported all the way to the Bronx, New York, so that hip hop could be going right there out in the street. So, you know, the music have similarities, more of a, I would say, soul and hip hop are more aligned than reggae, but they all kind of have similar. The origins are indisputable that they come from the same place. So naturally, they kind of dovetail together and have a great relationship with one another.
Yeah, and I'm very happy you mentioned that point about, you know, the ways in which we could actually give that information through, you know, exhibitions, etc. Because I think the information just a while ago as well, when Boyd introduced the conversation of Headley Jones to us, is what is missing from how we appreciate our music, reggae music and hip hop as well, and how both genres have managed to help each other to grow, Pat. But I think, you know, even nowadays we find that, you know, the consumption is there, but it's still struggling, especially with reggae and breaking into the US market. What are your thoughts on how the US consuming audience appreciates or may not be appreciative so much of Jamaica's reggae music right now?
Well, it's such an interesting dynamic to me because, you know, of course, for most Americans even Americans who don't know much about reggae, everyone knows Bob Marley. And one of the things Bob Marley wanted to do in his life that he was never quite able to accomplish fully because he died so young was to fully be embraced by an African American audience, you know, and he did that. He set up shows at the Apollo Theater in 1979, like I believe it was 7 shows in the space of 4 days, something like that. The Apollo being such a cultural monument in New York City, he wanted that African American audience right there. He was put on a show, his final show in New York, opening for the Commodores, so that would bring that African American audience to him. And he had this big hit, Could You Be Loved, which became very influenced by disco music at the time. So, you know, it was making all these steps towards that, and it was certainly going in that direction. But unfortunately, you know, he collapsed just days after that New York City show, and he performed his final show 2 days later, and he got sick and passed away in 1981. So,
wow.
You know, but as far as the music's concerned, it's consumed here. It's such an interesting dynamic, and for all of you, I don't know if you've spent any time on the West Coast in the U.S., but there is this proliferation of reggae bands. It's just mind-boggling. Like, you cannot count. And these festivals with dominated by American reggae bands and youth, like going 3 and 4 nights, 10 bands, 20 bands on those shows each night. You have some Jamaican artists on there, of course, but it's primarily American reggae bands, white American reggae bands. These would be like the children, grandchildren of people who heard Bob Marley, and he came through California back in the 70s, as well as other reggae. But so it's a very interesting dynamic that you do have African American support for the music, but within this incredible swell of reggae bands in America, it is predominantly a white American dynamic, and the audiences are very mixed, and that's a great thing. And some of the bands, but I haven't seen that African American embrace of the strict reggae music, so to speak, on the same level as what we see with the white American bands and what's going on throughout the country, but especially on the West Coast. I see more of an alignment on the physical side of things in terms of the African American audience.
I really appreciate that very honest observation, because that is something that it's a very truthful one as well. And even our local reggae artists as well lament, reggae bands and such, that they're not getting the access to these international reggae shows because their place is being taken up by other international reggae bands. It's not that we're saying, these reggae bands shouldn't exist, but it would be very nice as well to see our own Jamaican reggae bands be on these platforms, for more than one reason. Boyd, I want to bring you in here. What are some of the reasons you think that our artists may have a harder time getting access, to these international event platforms? I
don't want to be controversial.
No.
I say these things, but I will say sometimes we shoot ourselves in the foot.
Okay.
It has been made difficult because of how we behave sometimes, who comes us with the band, and even how the band is, how the members are, they're not together, or they have different intentions when they go to the States. Things like that would also deter people from inviting us over. Then the exorbitant band fee, another thing, it's not together. So a lot of we don't see this thing as a business, and that is where I think the main problem is. You have bands who are business-like, who have their own, lawyer, producer, whatever. So those are the ones that go far, the Toots, rest in peace again, the professional bands, they will go far, but, the new bands that are coming up, they need to have to be more professional about the thing. So, and I would say in the US, the West Coast is where they embrace reggae, in a big way. Why? You want to know why? It's warmer.
Tell me.
It's beside the sea.
Mm-hmm.
So in that side, it's
warm country music.
It's like Jamaica.
I would say it's like Jamaica, but it's the closest.
Yeah, it's the closest thing to Jamaica, the Jamaican vibe.
Next to Florida and stuff, but that West Coast, it's the Bay Area that is doing that a lot. And if we get paid a small amount for a band that is local, and to fly in a Jamaican band, which is what they should do actually, so that they can keep the music at least original to us, because a lot of the American bands, they don't pay homage.
Yeah.
They just do their thing. It's music, it's our music, it's not. I will tell you straight up, it's not your music, but we allow you to go on with your thing.
But music is a shared experience, and
no, I'm not going there because hip hop, and they make sure that hip hop is theirs, right? Reggae.
But we have our local people who drive the hip hop as well, so we can't knock it for dabbling into the genre.
There's a hip hop movement, and there was always a hip hop movement in Jamaica. There was always one.
Yeah.
But again, because we would think we know the history of hip hop, so we would think that hip hop is a foreign thing. So anybody who try and do hip hop, like they will look down on them and, why are you doing this foreign music for?
Yeah.
Even if you do reggae and dancehall.
I'm very happy you mentioned that, because I want to bring in the next question here. Can you think of any early examples of reggae music influencing hip hop, rap, and R&B? Drop some names of some songs that off the bat you can hear it. You can know that this is a.
Run DMC had a song with Yellow Man.
How it go?
Roots, rock, reggae.
Yeah.
There you go. Run DMC. Fat Boys had another song. They started to intermingle in the 80s.
Yeah.
Mid to early to mid 80s is when they
Mhm.
started to really accept.
People like KRS-One
KRS One,
taking heavy influence
yeah.
from
And
it.
KRS One is not Jamaican, but you
Mhm.
would have feel sick. KRS One is Jamaican because he talk patois,
Yeah.
you know, and he's an influential rapper up to this day.
Mhm.
So yeah, you had KRS One, he had Shined. Later on down in the 80s, he had Shined, which is Jamaican, who went over there and did his rap thing because he's so talented.
Yeah.
Heavy D, Jamaican, went over there, he did his thing. Special Ed went over there, did his thing. Slick Rick, all of these people are Jamaican.
Mhm.
You
Biggie
know?
with him, you know,
And then in the
Jamaican
90s,
lineage,
now you
yeah.
had the Biggie and
Yeah.
the Rick, right. But before that, and I would say Chub Rock, if Chub Rock and Heavy D had a child, it would have been Biggie. If you listen to Biggie and Chub Rock and Heavy D are Jamaicans,
Yeah.
right?
And then
If they had a
Biggie did
child,
heavily.
Biggie is Jamaican influence. Biggie is Jamaican too. So
Right.
that's where he got his two root stems from.
Yeah.
Two Jamaicans, you know, Chub Rock. If you listen
Him
to
take him style from that.
from Chub Rock and Heavy D,
Mhm.
you know,
Because when we our lyrical content also when we are delivering, we're also delivering in melody.
Mhm.
right?
So it's almost like rapping or DJing in melody.
Yeah. So we do
And-
our melody. It's
right.
not when they rap, they do it more. It's more straight. But
Yeah.
then you have the rappers that are doing it melody as well. And one of the biggest thing, Heavy D, because of his connections to Jamaica, he would always collab. You know, so he collabed with Super Cat
Mhm.
and he collabed with Buju Banton.
Buju, right.
So, and those are iconic,
Yeah.
legendary, classic collaborations
Mhm.
that play to this day. If people know about those songs.
And even most recently, Elephant Man Twister.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, no, well, yeah,
And
but-
I mean,
yeah.
you have people like Buster, he's always been like a big advocate for Jamaican music.
Right.
You know what I mean?
His father is Jamaican.
Yeah, Wyclef, love because
Wyclef.
he's also from the Caribbean as
Right,
well.
right,
You know,
right,
Akon has collaborated with Tammy Chin and
Right,
you know
right.
Sean Paul. Let's not even talk about the vast amounts of collaborations with Sean.
Paul.
Right.
Oh my
And
God,
Shaggy.
and Shaggy.
Yeah, right. So I mean,
Yeah.
we're always influencing from that time. I can go back for a second.
Yeah, man, go back.
I'll go back for a second. With Cool Herc, where Pat said, Cool Herc told me that his main influence was when he saw James Brown in Jamaica, right? And he realized that James Brown went crazy when there was just the drum break.
Mm.
That's what stuck in his head. James Brown went crazy on the stage and the dancing, but there's nothing else but drums. So that's why he was like, I want to find music that has those drum breaks in it. And you call them breaks. And because there are breaks in the music, you call them the people who dance in the breaks, break dancers.
Mm.
You understand? Those breaks.
Yeah.
Right. And because he would extend those breaks, it gave it enough space for an MC now to jump on it. Because if somebody's singing and you have guitar and piano playing, you don't really have time for anybody else to speak over that. But when you have the breakdown, then an artist or an MC or whatever could jump on that. And that's why they're saying that he is the originator of that, because the hip hop is not just one thing. Just like dancehall and reggae is not just one thing. What they break it down to hip hop is graffiti writing, break dancing, rapping, MCing, and DJing. That is what hip hop is.
Yeah.
That's the culture of hip hop. But it's basically what dancehall is too.
Yeah.
You know, but we don't have the graffiti. That's a definite New York thing. We don't have a graffiti, but we do have the dancing.
Yeah.
We do have the music. We do have the DJing. And our DJing, we make sure that our DJing is the MC, which I don't know where that come from, but yeah, our DJing is the MC, and then we have a selector. So that is basically how it really does. And everybody was saying, you're distant cousins. No, we're first cousins. We're not distant at all. There's no distance between the two of them. We are first cousins to whatever. And I would say, who came first? Was it dancehall or hip hop? And if you say hip hop is 1973, then hip hop came before dancehall. So who influenced who?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Again,
question.
Reggae.
That's the
Who
question.
influenced who?
Yeah.
Hip hop.
Which- which-
then
you-
spawned dancehall.
You know, there's an
Dancehall.
ongoing,
It's a bridge, it's a bridge, and
there's an
everybody
ongoing
cross it.
conversation about that, about who came first. You know
Who
what I
came
mean?
first?
Yeah, who
But
came
who was
first?
the first dancehall? We said dancehall rhythm would have been what? Slang Tang 1985?
Mhm.
But you had These Are the
Or
Breaks, so
Stalag.
you had all of those.
Right.
You before or even Stalag, but Stalag was what? 1981?
That was 85.
85 too?
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
it's quite an interesting conversation.
It is an interesting conversation for sure. And I don't know about you, but I'm learning so much at the feet of these two legends and Pat as well. I mean, you know, a legend because Pat, let's talk about the fact that we've seen, you know, the genre, you know, being created outside of Jamaica, right? So we have the reverse where in Jamaica, you know, a lot of our artists may want to do hip hop and R&B, but the reverse is also there where you have an artist like Snoop Dogg who would change his whole identity for a period to Snoop Lion.
That's a weed situation.
Right.
You know, come to Jamaica, you know, go to Top Gong and take on to himself a whole
Different weed he
lifestyle.
must smoke.
Right.
Something happened.
And let's leave it at lifestyle,
Yeah,
right?
right,
Let's leave it at lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
So that he could really
He
and truly
indulged.
absorb himself into this culture. Do you think that when artists, international artists, go that way, does it work for them really?
I think it depends, like individual projects, like who you involve in doing it. It's like, you know, the Snoop Dogg project. I think he was his own worst enemy. Like some of the things he was saying when he said he was Bob Marley incarnate. I mean, obviously you're going to offend a lot of people and put a lot of people off. They're not going to come to this project with an objective ear. They're going to be like, dude, what are you talking about? You know, so there's that part of it. Also, like that individual project, I feel he could have involved a lot more Jamaican talent, a lot more Jamaican producers, writers, you know, to just, if you're coming all the way to Jamaica and, you know, you're making this whole thing about, you know, you're now Snoop Lion and all this stuff, like, you know, I would have loved to see from the ground up a lot more Jamaican involvement in that project. So it depends who the artists are and what they, how deeply they really want to go into the music. If you're just going to say, hey, I'm doing a reggae project, and you just go about it in a surface way, you'll get kind of surfacey results. But if you go really in depth, like one project years back that I loved was the singer Sinead O'Connor, who, you know, has been through a lot of stuff since, but how she embraced the culture. Sly and Robbie not only produced and played on it, they toured with her. The show I saw in New York, Burning Spear played percussion with the band. I mean, it was just amazing, you know, and she dug into the catalog of the Abyssinians, just went really deep into some of the songs that she chose to cover, like that being a good example of someone who really did it right. Like they went beyond just talking, I'm going to do this reggae project, but they really reached out to the genre's most celebrated musicians and producers and some of the greatest songs within the reggae catalog, and decided to work them over and did a great job with it. So it varies so much project to project, but it's up to the individual artist, like how much they really are going to put into it. And that's always going to be the ultimate deciding factor. Are you going to go really deep and involve people whose life is reggae music, or is this just a one-off to get some attention and say some crazy stuff and hang out in Jamaica at a lovely studio like G Jam or something? And that's basically, and then like put people to work, whatever. Like, you know, you can feel the difference when someone is deeply invested in the culture, in the music, as opposed to just, well, you know, I'm kind of at this point in my career, what haven't I tried? Oh, reggae, you know, like there's a very different approach, like between the two different ways of going about it. So, you know, the projects can, and there's so many of them across the board of all different kinds of people like doing reggae music, and the results are almost as varied as the people who've taken them on. It just depends how serious they are. And if you're serious and you're not you're not a Jamaican, then, you know, it behooves you to get involved with some of the best people around who are, you know, who this has been their life 24/7, and let them, you know, if you're fortunate enough that they have the time and they're willing to work with you, then, you know, there's no better way to go about it than approaching it like that.
Yeah, and do you think that the Khaled formula works? I mean, he has collaborated with and added onto his projects many of our Jamaican artists, Buju Banton and Barrington Levy,
Capitan.
you know, Capitan, Sizzla. Do you think that his formula works?
For me, overall, it doesn't. Like you know, there's some individual songs I've really liked out of all of this stuff, but I just feel like something about the projects just don't ring true. And you know, it's like when you go about collaborating, like I think an artist should, well, why do I really want to work with this person? You know, like figure that out, as opposed to just a bunch of names on a track, you know. And it's like you could sometimes find an artist who is virtually unknown, but they might be the right person. But maybe in your head, well, I've got to have like 20 big names because I want this thing to sell and I want to top a chart and whatever, as opposed to, but you know, that young person I did this thing with, they really had the best lyrics, they really had the best delivery for that, you know. So for me, the projects he's done with Jamaica brought certain attention. One could argue if that's good or bad, but musically, it just hasn't been the right results. And you know, it's like, I remember from like the 1990s in, you know, when there was the time when I started in journalism, and there was a lot of Jamaican artists being signed to US major labels. And one of the ways they looked at crossing over many of these artists from Shabba, Buju, Tiger, Supercat is to have them do songs with various rappers, you know. And in some cases you had some beautiful results. They're really cohesive, it really made sense. In other cases you're like, why didn't somebody step in and stop this before it gets put on a record and released? Because it just didn't make any sense. So it's like, you know, it's not just about bringing names together, it's about who really complements each other on every given song. And someone who might work with you on one song and might be that right choice, they may not be for the other one. It's not music is not a formula, it's not a cookie cutters thing. And I feel like so much time is like we're trying to shoehorn things into templates that, you know, just don't exist. There isn't a specific template for this is going to be the key ingredients for a hit song, other than, you know, doing your best writing, your best vocals, having the best musicians around that you can have. I mean, certainly all those ingredients are there. And I'm sure all of us can speak to, there's many songs that we love that have never become big hits. And that's a whole other thing. You wonder, and why didn't that happen for this artist or that artist? But so to answer your question about that, you know, I just don't feel like for me that really worked. But I feel like, you know, I'd like to see Khaled, among others, just to, you know, sit down, spend a little more time planning, and really believe if that is the right person, as opposed to the right name that you're going for.
Yeah, I have so many follow-up questions, Lord. I have so many follow-up questions because talking about the Khaled project, one of my things as well, Alrick and Boyd, I mean, you could jump in here, was, would it have made any difference if, let's say, Khaled, with you know, the power that he has, the resources that he has, and what he did with his album, flying in artists from the US to Jamaica to record here with our Jamaican artists, instead of putting purely you know, a reggae song with only with a compiled thing of Capitan and Bounty and Buju Banton on one track, would it have been better to pair them with an international artist who is not, you probably wouldn't fathom, let's say a Buju Banton with a Justin Bieber on a track together, and then now you kind of open the gates up for Justin's audience to now learn more about Buju Banton, and also for Buju's audience to see Justin in a different way.
It could work, but again, it goes right back to what
it has worked though. It has worked when you put Bounty Killer with No Doubt. You understand that work.
Right. But again, it has to be cohesive. It has to,
Yeah.
It has to make sense.
Where the
It has to
writing
make
makes sense and the vocals make sense and the
But
production
I
makes
think
sense.
the issue
Yeah.
is with that is that you have too much people in his ears, and because of who Khaled is and what he offers, he tends to go for the biggest and the best in his mind. I want the biggest and the best, and because I have the biggest and the best, it must hit.
Yeah.
That's not normally the case, as Pat would say, and you came up with that whole thing where, yes, he has all of these together. But the thing, I would tell you this, we can do it too.
Yeah.
We really don't need Khaled to help us to do that.
And we love him for doing it.
We love him.
We love him for doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's digging in. All right. I had a conversation with the young producers because a lot of them are hitting this wall now, where they get the music from, how they sing music, where is it going, our dancehall we're talking about here now. And I said to them, why is it that your timeline starts with today? You have 50 years of music to pull from, to be inspired from. And as I said that, see, Khaled, no, Mary J. Blige, boom, gone, hit. You understand what I'm saying? You can pull from those things. You can pull, you don't have to build over the rhythm. You can be inspired by them and create your own.
Right.
We have enough music out there now
To be sampled.
to be sampled,
Yeah.
be played over, to be inspired from. We have a library. Look
Nicki
back.
Minaj did it with Megatron.
Yeah. And the samples works, but would they? Is it a case where it works better if the music is sampled by non-Jamaicans?
Now is where you get into a very serious
Because
conversation.
it's almost like, will it be received as a cliched thing to do if Jamaican samples Jamaicans,
I would say yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, you have people who love the foreign mind thing, and because them do it, oh my God. And if we do it out there, because sampling is not really a part of our music culture. You understand? It is a big part of American music culture. It is not really a part of, because we always play instruments and it's coming from that musical background. Right. In the 80s, hip hop came from sampling, right? So we are learning how to sample and what pieces to sample and what, we might sample the wrong elements and then try and make that into a song so that is another thing we have to talk about. What do you sample? I would say, okay, you don't need to sample, but you can be inspired from it. You don't need to take over a Showtime rhythm and say, I'm going to do a Showtime rhythm again. No. You can go further and go duck rhythm. You can go further and go mud up rhythm. You can go further back and go stalag, where stalag is the most sampled dancehall rhythm of all time at this point.
Yeah.
Everybody do that.
Right.
So you don't need to do, but there are many others that you can probably sample from, or sample a slide down bar, kick and a Robbie Shakespeare bass line. Because when they started to the dancehall, it was just drum and bass. It was just drum and bass. Murder She Wrote is drum and bass, It don't have no keys going in it doing nothing. It's a drum and bass track.
Nothing pretty.
Taxi is a drum and bass track.
Yeah.
So that is very easy. Look at what Taxi did, right? 20 years after it came out, Buju Banton go Driver, it mash up the world.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I'm saying. You need to look back, not forward or go foreign.
Right.
It is all here. It is all here.
Boyd, let me tell you. No, I love it.
Digging in the crates. Digging in the crates.
I'm going to put all of you, Pat's included, on the spot. Right. Because as, veterinaries in the music industry, let's look at what's present now and what's the most current, right? Which is a crossover happening with our dancehall female artists. I'm going to pull on Shensia because she's a person now on top of everybody's tongue. And we no pun intended, right? But she is definitely, she has been sending tongues wagging about what her what the kind of projection is for her career. We've heard her say that she does not want to be defined as a dancehall artist, and she also would want to step out of her genre. She has an album coming out. Yeah. We've heard a song already, from it that does not sound dancehall. She has taken on a very pop sound, and you know, a different sound. She doesn't
Right.
sound Jamaican anymore. Do you think that will work in her favor?
We have to wait and see. That's what I
Yeah,
would
that
say.
is that
We can't-
history going to
We
have to
can't
answer
project that.
question.
But I would say this though. Shensia, don't leave your roots. Do not leave your roots, because that,
Is the roots got you there? in the
yeah,
first place?
is the roots
You
get it
cannot
there.
leave you
Lady
can't-
saw, when she did her collabs with everybody else, she was still dancehall. Bounty Killer, same thing. Beenie Man, same thing. Shaggy, same thing.
And I mean,
So you are saying, I'm not dancehall now. Who are you influenced by at this point? Who is influencing you to make that decision? If you're not Jamaican anymore, you can just shed your Jamaicanness like that and say, okay, I'm not Jamaican, I'm not dancehall.
I mean,
No.
dancehall
Dancehall is where you come from.
I'm glad you mentioned even Lady Saw, because when you talk about collaborations and going far outside of your root genre, nobody has done it further than Lady Saw thus far, because she went rock.
Yeah.
She went rock. She had a tune with No Doubt that was an award-winning tune, Grammy-winning tune. So and she never leave her roots.
She never left the roots to do that.
So I think you know, maybe a template is you know, moving away from let's say the root of it. So it's easy to say, well, Rihanna wasn't a soca artist,
No.
you know, from Barbados. She went into pop.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But she's Caribbean roots.
But she's Caribbean roots, which
she stayed. She kept it.
Right.
When you look at a song like Work, yeah, man.
Yeah. And that order, her first song out, Hey Mr. DJ, was a dancehall song.
It was a dancehall song.
That's what got her out there.
Gotcha.
Right.
Right. Patty wants to weigh in on this one. Yes.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, I agree with Boyd and Alrick, like especially Shensia. You know, she has such a unique identity within this American music landscape. So, you know, why on earth would you want to give that up, renounce that, diminish that, when to be just an imitation of something that's already out there in abundance? You know, there are some female DJs within the American landscape getting attention, but she is the person right now getting the most attention. So I would just love to see her capitalize on who she is, embellish who she is and where she comes from, and make the best music she can as who she is. Of course, a little experiment, of course, you know, but you know, with that song that, you know, was widely panned, it's like, you know, nobody really, like, we know her as an artist. We know that she has skills, that it's almost like she's dumbing down her skills for this acceptance that may never come.
Exactly.
And it's like, why would you want to dumb down your talents? Like, shine as brightly as you can. And part of that shining is to be authentic and be who you are. Again, you experiment a little bit here and there, sure. Like any artist wants to do that, should do it. But I feel like she's, as you know, you said, like, somebody is in her ear telling her, no, you have to do this to succeed. You have to do this to break bigger. And I don't think she has to, you know, and there's no guarantee by doing this that you're going to break anyway. So, you know, make the best music you can make. And that comes through authenticity. That always comes through authenticity. Imagine if, like, you know, go back to Bob Marley, like he had his, with the Could You Be Loved, he would add in his little disco influences, but he never diverted from that path he was on. The kind of spirituality, Alrick, that you said in the beginning is so intrinsic to what reggae music is. He never diverted from that path. And he might add in other things, but he, you know, he solidly knew who he was and what he wanted to project out there. If he had to take in other ingredients, he would, but he would not compromise who he was. And I was, yes, Shensia is a very different kind of artist, but the bottom line is still be true to who you are, be authentic, bring that to the world, because that's what makes you special. And this has just been, you know, it's an ongoing issue with artists over the decades that, like, they're signed for being who they are, and yet once the project's about to come up, it's like so compromised and so different from that person and that kind of core identity that we need them to have, you know. So I definitely agree she should retain her Jamaicanness is what's special about her, and let that shine through. Whatever experiment she goes into, all well and good, but let that shine through, because that is what's so special. And don't let people be daunted by your talent. Let them shine. Never dumb them down for anybody.
Yeah, very, very good point there, Pat. And as we wrap up, I want to ask all three of you, what do you think can be done to continue the strengthening of the synergy between Jamaica's music, dancehall, reggae, and hip hop, R&B, the US genres as well? Alrick.
Well, as Pat said, we definitely, and Boyd was saying, we definitely have to reconnect with our roots, because what is happening now is that our dancehall is taking heavy influence from the hip hop, but almost to the point of losing its original flavor, and we need to regain that. We need to regain that, because when you think about it, when the world takes and uses our music in their genres and not using the current sound, they are going to the original sound. They are going to that older sound. And maybe by continuing to do what we are doing right now, we are further separating ourselves from that, and we need to get back to that and to reconnect and put that back in our music. And I think personally that we will be able to reconnect in a major way to what is going on with the world. The world will start turning and coming towards us, because it's almost every time, Boyd can speak to this, there are times when hip hop will stagnate.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever that happens, it's dancehall they turn to you and take to revamp themselves again.
Yeah.
So, but again, not the new dancehall. The original dancehall is what they're going for.
Yeah. Boyd?
It is a conundrum, because I would like it to remain organic, because that's the excitement. Excitement is, and as Alrick said, right now, the dancehall that we are producing right now, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it.
Okay, free yourself, my brother.
It's the worst. It's the worst that's ever been. That's all I can say. It is the worst it has ever been, because they're not being inspired by our roots culture. Mm-hmm. They're looking to try and see how they can
make money.
Yeah, it's a make money quick. It's I want $1 million today type thing. Like you're using it as a scam machine. So you're going to go now, okay, I'm going to get a piece of what Afrobeat is. And Afrobeat come from dancehall. You understand? You're not doing your research. I want Afrobeat. I want the trap sound. I want this sound, and influence it from there. They all came from us. So if you are going to do that, start from us first.
Yeah.
Nobody buy no YouTube video instrumental that don't have nothing to do with our streets. We have no connection to that.
Yeah.
Right. So you're forcing us a round peg in a square hole.
But it's like and this was a discussion that I had with some DJ friends of mine, is that the producers that are now coming out is straight from the bedroom. So they're not getting mentored.
No.
Oh, Pat, Pat, I want your last word on it. I mean, we could really actually go on and on here with Alrick and Boyd, but your last word.
We need an educational institution in Jamaica. And we need to educate our musicians.
Yes.
Coming up and coming musicians. We need that.
Yes. Pat,
we have to see it as a business.
Give me your last word on this. The synergy between our music and hip hop and R&B.
Yeah, well, to just follow up on what was said previously, and perhaps coming from the perspective of someone who lives outside of Jamaica, born and raised outside, but yet, loves the culture, like Jamaican culture, Jamaican music is it's so special, and it's so, to think of a country as small as Jamaica is, but this inordinate influence that it has had on the world. It makes absolutely no sense, you know, that like a country this small could have this kind of influence in so many spheres of life, you know, but it has. And the music being so much a part of that, that like it saddens me to see that younger artists want to be so dismissive of everything that's come before. And it's like, while I'm all for artists finding their own voice, and of course it's understandable, like every generation wants to put their stamp on what's happening. That's, you know, when we were 20, we did that, you know. Now it's like, you know, the 20-year-olds of today, it's like, want to make their stamp, and what their dad listened to, their grandma listened to, you know, that's not for them. It's like, they might tolerate it, but that's not for them. But it's like honoring everything that came before you. As Boyd said, they have 50 years of music to look at, and 50 years of struggle, 50 years of triumph, 50 years of things that worked, things that didn't work. But, you know, to study like what's come from Jamaica and how can that apply to me in 2022, what I'm doing, the kind of artist I want to be, the kind of statements I want to make through my music, and what fits now with the technology, but still honors the past as I try to move it forward. So, you know, I never want to see artists, you know, forget what's come before them and try to just go for what's out and popular currently, because that will fade. But, you know, you've got 50 years of a solid foundation. Please examine it. Please take from it what you can and try to update it, work with it, and make it unique for yourself.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful note to end on, right? Educate yourself and find your unique quality. Can I thank you all for your time, please? Thank you all so much for joining us today. Wow, my guest, Pat Meschino. Thank you so much to Alrick and Boyd for joining us once again. I am Debbie Bissoon. That's all the time that we have. We could have really gone on another hour. Once we start talking about Jamaica's rich, you know, culture, entertainment as well, we could have gone on whole day.
Could be a series.
Could be a series. Just saying. But I've been your guest host, Debbie Bissoon, and thank you so much for staying with us. We ask that you give us your feedback inside the comment section. Let us know what you thought of today's show. And next week, you're back to regular scheduled programming with Bobby. But thank you all so much for tuning in to the Star Spangled Sit Down. Have a